The Brotherhood strikes again. We got another one. Dame Sarr has committed to Duke. Let's go.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It's so great to have you here with us today on Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. Today's news of the day: Dame Sarr has committed to play basketball for Duke next season. Can't wait to break all that down with you on today's show. We've got some schedule news for the basketball squad as well. We'll get into baseball, softball conversations, all those things a little bit later in the program. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. You can watch us each and every day on YouTube as well. We ask that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, share it with your friends. Let's continue to get the word out there about Locked On Blue Devils as we're getting closer to 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. All thanks to you guys. A special shout out to my everydayers out there who make us a part of your routine each and every day. I cannot wait to talk about Dame Sarr committing to the Blue Devils with you guys. What a big-time addition this is for Jon Scheyer's squad ahead of this upcoming college basketball season. We've talked about him throughout the course of the week, but let's dive in. The newest member of the recruiting class for Duke going into the next season, which, by the way, gives the Blue Devils the number one recruiting class once again. We can copy and paste that each and every year as the Blue Devils yet again have the number one recruiting class in the entire country. Dame Sarr joins Cameron and Caden Boozer and Nicholas Aminia to make up that number one class. Dame Sarr, we've talked about his game playing for FC Barcelona at the professional level. He has also had time debuting back in November 2024 with the Italian national team. So this is a guy who's going to have some FIBA Olympic experience with Italy coming up in the next few years. Incredibly impressive talent for Sarr, who's going to join a backcourt that is going to be able to make a whole lot of shots from the outside for the Duke basketball team. How big is this guy, right? ESPN lists Sarr as 6'8". On three's got him as 6'6". The FC Barcelona media guide has him listed as 6'7". Who knows how tall he is? He's going to be a great player, though, for Duke, and he once again helps the Blue Devils have one of the tallest teams in America like they did this past season. There is not a single scholarship player still for the Blue Devils that is under 6'5". So no matter how tall you want to make Sarr, he still adds to the great length that Duke has from the outside. Reading the ESPN story, talking about his commitment to the Blue Devils, Sarr says, quote, "Duke was my dream school. I watched a lot of NCAA games this season, especially Duke. I played with Jabari Parker this season for FC Barcelona, who went to Duke. When I had the chance to go there, I had to take it. My ultimate goal is to play in the NBA. There's no better place to prepare you for that than Duke. For me to be as NBA ready as possible and become the best version of myself, I needed to have both experiences playing for a pro team like Barcelona and playing in a different type of professional environment like Duke against other players my age. Opportunity, minutes, repetition. This route is the best next step for me at this time," end quote. How does that not fire you up wanting to play for Duke, knowing that it's the best place to get him to the next level? Earlier in the week, we talked about his connection to Jabari Parker from their FC Barcelona days this past season. That's incredible. Jabari Parker, one of our great one-and-dones, really early. It's crazy to think it's been over 10 years now since Jabari Parker wore that Duke uniform. But what an addition it is for Sarr. You look at his numbers for FC Barcelona, debuting for the pro team this past year. He debuted, I should say, in 2023 at 16 years old. He averaged 5.8 points per game, 1.7 rebounds, in just 12 minutes of action. So really didn't play a whole lot, but has that experience with the senior team. As of late, though, he had a 6-game stretch playing professional basketball at Barcelona where he shot 58% from three-point range. I don't care who you're playing against or what level of competition it is. If you could put together 6 consecutive games making greater than 50% of your three-point shots, that'll play. That'll do. And that's the type of player that Duke's going to be getting in Dame Sarr when he arrives on campus. Sarr fits right in with this Duke squad going into next season. You look right now at a backcourt that'll consist of Caleb Foster, Sarr, and Isaiah Evans. Sign me up for that. That's going to be really fun to watch for the Duke basketball team this upcoming season. His outside shooting is going to be a weapon along with Isaiah Evans. I mean, this is a Duke team. We shot threes last year. Let's keep doing it again this upcoming season because I think that Sarr is definitely going to be able to do that. And then pairing him with Cam Boozer on the inside. Sarr just recently competed at Nike Hoop Summit where he played against the Boozer twins, Nicholas Semenya, and other top players in his class. And in that game, Sarr had 17 points, 4 rebounds, and 25 minutes of action. That's the type of production and level that you've got with a player like Dame Sarr joining the Duke team. And again, now Duke is in a position where they find themselves with the number 1 recruiting class. I love that, Sarr had been linked to Kansas in recent weeks, and then John Scheyer pivoted. He understood the challenge that was there with Cedric Coward likely remaining in the NBA draft. There's a need for Duke to get another dynamic player. So they bring Sarr in on a visit, and you don't leave Durham without being incredibly impressed. And yet again, the Duke basketball team makes a major addition for this upcoming season with Sarr deciding to commit to the Duke Blue Devils. Last quote that really stood out to me again from the story with ESPN talking to Dame Sarr about his decision. Sarr says, quote, Duke is losing Con Knippel and Tyrese Proctor, who have a similar playing style as me. My winning mentality and ability to play alongside other good players while creating shots for myself and others will help me along with my offense and defensive versatility. It's a talented roster. We need the pieces to fit in well, end quote. So he's already talking about the fit that he's got for Duke, aware of what they were able to do with guys going to the NBA from this past season squad, and cannot wait to see what he's going to look like in the Duke uniform. Still waiting on official word for Cedric Coward. Again, that deadline is May 28th to say whether or not you're going to come back to college basketball and maintain your eligibility. Although all indicators right now are that Coward is going to stay in the draft and he will not ever play a game for Duke. That's why a get like this and adding Dame Sarr to the Blue Devils roster for this next season is so big. This roster is going to be tested. They're going to be challenged when you look at the schedule for next season. We've already talked a little bit about some of these non-conference matchups. And again, we're learning more about some opponents that the Blue Devils have coming up. We'll tell you about the new game added to the schedule for Duke basketball after this break here on the program. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is the absolute best, and it is America's #1 sports book. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. How about that game winner, or what we thought was the game winner for Tyrese Halliburton, and the Pacers ended up being a 2-point bucket to send it to overtime before the Pacers were able to steal game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. I was able to follow all of that action with our friends over at FanDuel, making it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Players are the absolute best way to go when you're looking for all those individual player props and so much more over at FanDuel. Are you new to FanDuel? Well, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA and a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Moving forward here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, I'm JJ Jackson. You can follow me on X at _JJ_Jackson_. Follow the show on X as well at @LO_Blue Devils. Our show is also on TikTok and Instagram. Give us a follow there for quick clips about the show. Enjoyed yesterday's show with Kevin Conley, where we were able to talk about the bench pieces for Duke basketball this past year, kind of reviewing the year that they had, We've got cool social posts for you to go see. Go back and listen to that show if you missed it yesterday. We've learned now that Duke added yet another really competitive game on their schedule. The Blue Devils are going to be playing Texas Tech on December 20th of this upcoming season in Madison Square Garden. It's going to be a really big day of basketball on December 20th, 5 days shy of Christmas this upcoming winter. On that day, you'll have Duke and Texas Tech at Madison Square Garden in New York. Kentucky will play St. John's in Atlanta. Auburn will play Purdue in Indianapolis. Arizona will play San Diego State in Phoenix. And then North Carolina will play Ohio State in Atlanta. 10 of the biggest names in college basketball all scheduled to play premier non-conference games on the same day. Of those 10 teams, 6 of them were in the latest Sweet 16, with us, Duke, Auburn, and Texas Tech being in the Elite Eight. I love the matchups that we've seen over the years in non-conference play, and it's going to be yet another great day as Texas Tech made it to the Elite Eight this past season. We made it to the Final Four, and we're going to have them on our schedule coming up on December 20th. Duke is 2-0 all-time against the Red Raiders. Their most recent meeting came in March Madness when Duke knocked off Texas Tech. Duke got the win in the 2022 Sweet 16. That was Coach K's final season and Duke's trip to the Final Four that year. So another really massive game on the Duke non-conference schedule this upcoming season. Now you think about this non-conference schedule for Duke basketball and all the marquee matchups that are already on the schedule. I can't help but think about the quote, if you want to be the best, you've got to beat the best. Challenge yourself against the best, and that's what John Scheyer is going to be doing. He's not afraid of the smoke. He wants to put his team through all of these tough competitions. As we look at what the schedule looks like right now for Duke, adding the Texas Tech game for the Blue Devils at Madison Square Garden on December 20th. Also, Duke will play Texas in Charlotte at the Spectrum Center to open up the season on November 4th. Later that week, Duke has announced they will play Western Carolina. Unclear if that game is going to be on November 7th or November 8th. But that game for the Blue Devils against the Catamounts, a little in-state action against my dad's alma mater. That's going to be a fun one there. On November 11th, we've got our first meeting since 1997 where Duke is playing at Army. They'll go up to West Point, and Duke will be the road team on Veterans Day taking on Army. November 14th, Duke will have a home game against Indiana State. On the 18th, Duke is back in Madison Square Garden playing Kansas in the Champions Classic. On Thanksgiving Day, we've got a game against Arkansas in Chicago at the United Center. Later that month in November or early December, it's going to be the ACC-SEC Challenge with a matchup that has yet to be determined. But you know Duke likely will be on the road, having been at home this past season against Auburn, and I would expect it to be a really good opponent for the Blue Devils. Duke owes Michigan State for a road game after the COVID game in 2020 brought the Spartans to Cameron Indoor. Now Duke has to go up there to East Lansing where they will play Michigan State at a date to be announced in December. We know the December 20th game against Texas Tech now. And then late in February, Duke's going to play in Washington, D.C. at Capital One Arena against Michigan. Wow, what a schedule so far for Duke in the non-conference. Again, just looking at power conference opponents, no disrespect to the likes of Indiana State, Army, and Western Carolina, but Duke will play outside of the ACC this season. They'll play Texas. They will play Kansas, Arkansas, Michigan State, Texas Tech, Michigan, and then an SEC team that we don't know yet. I mean, it's unbelievable the schedule that the Blue Devils have put in place. Really going to be excited to see how we step up to that competition. And if Duke can put together some big wins, it helped them this past year as they were able to get ready for the March Madness run in those neutral court matchups. We were able to kind of fly through ACC play. I'm expecting it to be more competitive in the ACC this upcoming season. I don't know that we're going to see a Duke team that has as few of losses as they had this past year. I think Duke's going to be tested throughout the course of the season, which is a good thing. Hopefully it can pay off and we can have our sights on 6 once again for the Blue Devils to put together a really impressive run, giving the big tests that they're going to have in the schedule. Let's go ahead and get set to take our final break here on today's show. And then on the other side, we'll talk a little bit more about Sebastian Wilkins' decision coming up tomorrow. Also tell you about the latest going on with Duke baseball and some other things here on Locked On Blue Devils. Thank you so much for making Locked On Blue Devils your first listen and your first watch here today. For your second listen, make sure that you go check out The Portal Show. Locked On's own Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever it is that you listen to your podcasts. It's a really good show. Make sure you go check it out. Again, The Portal Show with Locked On's own Brian Smith. Go make that your second listen today. Also, be sure to check out Locked On College Basketball with Andy Patton and Isaac Schade. Those guys are the absolute best. Duke, of course, one of the kings, one of the titans in the college basketball world. So they spend a whole lot of time talking about our squad, and I'm sure they're going to be doing that now that Dame Sarr has committed to Duke basketball. Go check out Locked On College Basketball. Here on Locked On Blue Devils, again, you can follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our podcast feed, leave us a 5-star rating and written review. My name is JJ Jackson. Our news of the day, Dame Sarr has committed to Duke. What a big-time addition this is for the Blue Devils. He becomes the 4th member of the freshman class, and now Duke awaits another interesting decision coming up tomorrow in the afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern. Sebastian Wilkins, by way of Brewster Academy, in the class of 2026, is set to make his college decision, choosing between Duke and Maryland. This is going to be a really fun one that Duke feels pretty good about. The Blue Devils do feel like they've got a good shot of landing Sebastian Wilkins, and a lot of people in the industry and in recruiting circles believe that Sebastian Wilkins is going to reclass and join the class of 2025 to join Duke for this upcoming season. So not even wait a senior year of high school, get to campus right now and play. So we'll see if that goes in Duke's favor, but I'm feeling pretty good about that one. Again, with Sarr committing, he talked in his story with ESPN, the plans now over this next month, he's going to be able to obtain his visa. We will also see the amateur portion of his contract with FC Barcelona expire, and then he's going to be able to join Duke at some point and enroll this summer. So really big addition for this basketball team ahead of the upcoming season. And you would figure that maybe there are going to be more pieces with the likes of Sebastian Wilkins joining the squad as well. Still ultimately waiting to see what Cedric Coward decides to do, although all the indications right now are that he is going to stay in the NBA draft and he will not play basketball for Duke this upcoming season. So that's something that the Blue Devils will have to contend with. That's why the addition of Sarr is all the more greater, all the more important that he's a part of the squad for this upcoming season. Number 1 recruiting class for Duke basketball. So amazing. John Scheyer, stay after it, man. Keep getting after it. Keep getting these guys to join us, to join the Brotherhood. It's incredible. All right, on to Duke baseball. What a game it was for the Blue Devils last night. They won 4-3 over Pitt. They had a walk-off walk. Yeah, those are the absolute best when they take place. Duke was down 3-2 going to the bottom of the 9th, and to lead off the 9th inning, sophomore Macon Winslow hit a solo home run to left center field to tie the game at 3. Duke's really feeling good at that point. You got all the momentum in the world. A batter reaches on an error. Duke gets a bloop single. They intentionally walk Ben Miller, who's a 2-time ACC first-teamer for the Blue Devils, to load the bases. And then Jake Hyde comes up to the plate. Anything will win it for the Blue Devils. They've just got to find a way to get the run home. What does Jake Hyde do? He practices patience in the batter's box, watches 4 go right by him, and it's a walk-off walk for Duke to win. ACC tournament action there at the Durham Bulls Athletic Park in our backyard. Duke won this event last year. They were 2024 ACC tournament champions and also won it in 2021. So their title defense gets to continue today in the quarterfinals when Duke will take on the 2-seed Florida State. This is going to be a really tough test for Duke. Last night, after that Duke game ended, more games had to be played. I mean, baseball did not conclude at Durham Bulls Athletic Park until 2 or 3 in the morning. So Duke is scheduled to play at 3 p.m. Eastern time today. That's just not going to happen. All these games are going to keep getting pushed back. We'll have some go into extra innings. You know, the pace of baseball sometimes isn't the greatest, so I'm sure that game will slow down before we see Duke baseball back in action. But congrats to them on a big win last night. Hopefully they can continue this momentum going forward. I do want to put a bow on the Duke softball season that unfortunately came to a close this past weekend. So we will not see Duke softball in super regional action after making it to the Women's College World Series for the first time ever last year. If Duke was playing this season, this weekend, they would be just 2 wins away from going back to Oklahoma City and back to the Women's College World Series. But hosting their own regional this past weekend, the Durham Regional, Duke lost in the final game in Game 7 of the regional to the Georgia Bulldogs. So now Georgia is heading off to the Super Regionals, and the season comes to a close for Duke softball. Still a really tremendous year. The program with Coach Young is in an unbelievable spot to still be less than 10 years old and already have gone to the Women's College World Series and already have all of these regional opportunities and super regional bids. I mean, it's unbelievable what Duke softball has been able to do. So tip of the cap to them on what's been a really awesome run. So now we're to a point where we'll start to wrap up our show here today. Throughout the rest of the week, we'll talk more about Sarr's commitment to Duke basketball, what it means moving forward. We still have a couple of players that we want to do the end of season reviews on. Go check out all of our social media content on Instagram and TikTok. And again, we're also on X at LO_Blue Devils. A special shout out to our everydayers. I think I saw my guy Harry left a comment yesterday that he was an everydayer. So shout out to you, Harry. If you want a shout out at the end of the program, you know what to do. Let us know that you're an everydayer in the YouTube comments down below. We're going to be back at it again soon with really great content. Again, Dame Sarr, the newest Blue Devil. Really excited to welcome him to the Brotherhood. That'll do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.